This is a very interesting discussion and debate. I'm going to ask the petitioners to come up and present your case to the Board of County Commissioners. You have submitted a request to remove your property from the Josephine County Library District based on ORS 198870. You have the time to make your case.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners. My property does not benefit from the library. Thank you, Commissioners.
We might have a few questions for you.
How do you figure your property doesn't benefit?
I just don't think the library does anything for my property, period. We are not here to talk about anything else but to follow the state statute.
Hey, do we have somebody wishing to speak on behalf of the library district?
We're here to interpret a statute. That statute being ORS 198870. And in that statute, it indicates that the petition shall be denied if it appears that it is or would be feasible for the territory described in the petition to receive services from the district. And I'm here to argue that her property, in fact, does receive services, and it is feasible for her to receive services. I just wanted to run through a couple issues that I think are important to consider. One of the owners of the property, in fact, ran for the library board. Almost by definition, if you're going to be on the library board, you're going to be attending meetings, you're going to be in the library where the meetings are held. Therefore, you would be receiving the services. He ran unsuccessfully. That's irregardless. The fact that he tried, it was feasible for him to receive the services by definition, because he ran for the board. Yesterday, I believe he was on a local radio show and he said if he had children, he would not file this petition. Again, if you have children, he would not file. So it's feasible for him to receive services from that property. That's the standard. Can he receive services? Yes, that property can receive services. If we're intellectually honest, that is enough to deny the petition. I think you need to also consider the implications of this. Take an apartment. Presumably, some of those are owned by individuals out of state, perhaps. Are we going to allow that individual to opt out of the district and then deny all the services for those individuals residing in those apartments? That would be the implication if this petition is granted. And it is very clear that libraries increase property values. By their definition, that property is receiving a benefit. It is receiving an increase in value from the existence of the library district. If you grant this petition, you're allowing the owners to benefit while passing on the burden to their neighbors. The county voted in this district. The petition shall be denied if it is feasible for that property to receive benefit.
I still haven't found it anywhere of what defines services. And you're saying the existence of the library district is a service in and of itself. I struggle with something because we always say this follows the property, doesn't have anything to do with the owners, that the owners are the ones that came in with a petition, not the property. And it's all about what the owner can get, not the property. What's available to the owner. If the owner doesn't have this and I don't have school kids, and there's a big can of worms out there. I'm trying to get somebody to define, and I think you hit it fairly close, of what that service would be. And I think access to the library, because you are a member of the district, could be that service.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
So let's get on that topic right there. Access to the library. Do you have to be in the district to get access to the library?
I suppose no. I could go into the library and I'm not a member of the district. Please. If I'm going to defer to the...
Well, my questioning, I'll...
Please if you don't know the answer to the question, just say you don't know the answer.
I'll defer to the library director. There's going to be different access versus, do I have a library card? You're going to need to be a part of the district, I assume, but I'll defer to the actual library director.
Okay, well, you were discussing access with him, so I'm confused why you're not able to discuss access with me, but that's okay.
It's the specific question, sir,
okay,
that I was not able to answer.
Okay. So if I had a piece of property inside the district that has nothing on it, how does that piece of property benefit from the library?
As I indicated, there are multiple studies out there that can be accessed that show that the library increases the value. So if you have a plot of dirt value is still increased by the existence of that library district.
Did you bring proof of that?
I certainly pulled up one study.
Okay. So, I mean, that's a study done by someone. So does the library also cause a tax burden to that property?
Yes, there's $110, I believe it is, that this property is subjected to.
So
$111.63.
So the property has a tax burden. The statute talks about the territory, meaning the property. We're not here to discuss, does someone on the property benefit? We're talking about how does the property itself benefit? Is that not what the statute says?
I think that's a narrow interpretation and you're going down a slippery slope.
So the slippery slope is your opinion?
That's all I can offer, yes.
Okay. And you said consider the implications of this. In here in the statute, it doesn't ask to consider the implications. It doesn't ask us to worry about the implications of this in any other county. We're only dealing with it as a board of commissioners for Josephine County, correct?
You're making the decision in Josephine County, yes.
Okay. So if I was wanting to buy a piece of property and the property taxes were higher, could that not deter me from buying that piece of property because it's in the library district? And I may look at a piece of property that's not in the library district because the property taxes is cheaper. Could that not come to play?
I think that's an individual decision. That's not looking at the issue here of whether it's feasible.
Well, I guess you opened the door on it because you said that the piece of property benefits, and I'm saying that maybe the piece of property doesn't benefit from being in the library because they have to pay more taxes.
Whether or not somebody wants to pay that or not pay that, that's an individual decision. That's not before the board.
You're saying the benefit is it increases the value of the land. So are you telling me that a auditor or an appraiser says, oh, this is worth more money because it's in a library district?
I think that's the implication of the studies that are out there that show that a library district increases property values.
So you say, and I have the statute here and I'm very familiar with the statute, and he says if it's feasible, well, wouldn't every property in Josephine County be feasible?
Yes.
Okay, but not every property in Josephine County is in the district.
That's whether or not it's annexed in the district or not. That's a separate issue.
Okay. I think the statement that the property has more value if it's in a district or not is arbitrary, depending on the individual. Okay, because there may be some people that don't want to pay it, and so they won't buy a piece of property. So I think that's an arbitrary statement.
Well, I would argue differently in that that's an individual decision on whether that person wants to pay more for a piece of property or not. That does not negate the fact that the library district increases the value on that specific property, which is what we're talking about.
I think that's an arbitrary statement, and I don't think you would make statement to the contrary because you are a library supporter and so you're not going to. So I understand that. That's all the questions I have.
Yes, good morning. My name is Mike Pelfrey. I am also the homeowner of this particular property in question. So, one of the things I mentioned yesterday on the radio, and irregardless of where it was said or how it was heard, the bottom line is the Library Association allows people to opt into it that are not in the district. I, as a homeowner, and I know for a fact that the library does nothing for my property. I've relocated my family about 5 different times. I've never looked at where the library was when I moved my house. I have never had someone buy a house from me that asked me whether or not there was a library close by. That is probably the craziest thing I've ever heard. But secondary to that is, and I'm going to answer this too, because it was brought up the fact that I ran for library board. The only reason I ran for library board because I watched the slippery path that the library was going down. And I wanted to be a strong conservative on the library board to be able to fight off a lot of the things that are happening within our libraries. So at the end of the day, I know that my property does not benefit whatsoever from the library district. I want to have the opportunity just like anybody else. I personally think this is taxation without representation, meaning that I am paying taxes for something that does zero for me, nothing. I do pay taxes to fire and I do pay taxes for law enforcement. And I do expect that if somebody breaks into my house, they're going to come over and they're going to make sure that I get the services that I paid for. I doubt very seriously that if I'm not sleeping well at night, I don't think anybody from the library is going to come over and read to me. Thank you very much. I appreciate your consideration, and I hope and pray that you make the right decision. Thank you.
I'm the library director for Josephine Community Library District. And today I was just going to speak to some of the services that are hardwired to a property through the internet service and broadband access a property may have. And it's a great opportunity to let you know what modern public libraries offer through access to a library card. So you can get a library card if you live within the district. It's automatic because you're paying taxes. We do have an online branch of our library. So it's a 5th branch, and online library cards are available. We have 104,384 electronic materials that are accessible, including ebooks and audiobooks from the comfort of your own home that average a cost of between $18 and $23 each. And if the average adult reads about 2 books or listens to about 2 books a month, they're saving about $500. Then on top of that, we have popular magazines such as Good Housekeeping, Home and Auto, and Practical Homeschoolers, which would directly benefit a home, alongside Time Magazine and the Smithsonian, all at no cost from your home with a library card through your internet access. Millions of peer-reviewed research reference articles and journals ranging, and I mean millions, I want to say billions, but I think it might be pushing it, between $50 and $500 each that are also available through your internet access to the online branch. And finally, we have so much more, but I don't want to take too much time. We have Ask a Librarian and Answerland, which is a direct ability to chat with a librarian who can assist you in research from your home. And we had a patron who was writing a business plan who used this online librarian to provide her with market research for her business plan. So this is feasible service to a home and to a property through internet access. Libraries today do so much more than what facilities and paper books provide because it's a modern library with technology. And I also want to say thank you to all of you for the opportunity to shed light on how libraries do, in fact, provide property owners with service.
Yeah, so you're talking about all these services that come with the inclusion into the library district.
Yeah.
So do you have an app or something that
You do, yes.
go on? Is that
But you have to have a library card.
I'm still trying to define service, and you've just told me a whole bunch of stuff I didn't know because guess what? I'm not going to say it. You already know it. I'm not that smart. I'm really not that smart as far as I'm computer illiterate, as anybody can tell you.
We also have computer classes.
But yeah, I know. Anyway, I'll take that as a compliment. Thank you. But no, I'm just trying to get a grasp on, because the thing is service to the property. Doesn't matter who bought the property. Doesn't matter who sold the property. Doesn't matter who's living there, whether they have kids, they have elderly. Does not matter. It is something that is available to the property. If I bought a piece of property in the library district, this is automatically offered to me.
Yeah, like a parks district or a hospital district.
When I go to buy a piece of property, it's recorded that there will be a tax burden for the library district associated with this property.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So will you clarify? I thought you said that library cards, if I'm outside the district and I want a library card, I don't automatically get it if I apply for it?
That is correct.
So you're turning away people who wants to pay the yearly dues?
Well, Commissioner West, I appreciate the question. We don't turn away people because we're charitable. So we have a library foundation that offers the opportunity to sponsor that individual, but that has absolutely nothing to do with the library district. And at any given moment, that can go away. In order to receive a card in the library district, you have to live in the library district. You don't get a card. You can't check out a book. You can come into it because it's a public building. And you can attend a program because, again, it's a public building and we're not kicking people out of the building, but you can't check out a book. You can't access our online ebooks. You can't download an audiobook, and you certainly cannot have access to the billions of research articles.
Guess I'm still a little confused. So I can't get a card is what you're telling me if I live outside.
Well, I would find a way to get you a card, Commissioner West.
Okay.
Because I think our foundation would sponsor you, and we do want you to know what the library does.
It's not about the money. It's about, I have the money
about
to
the
pay
principle.
for it, but you,
It's the principle of it. So the
Okay.
principle is that everybody within the library district actually has to pay a tax. So in order for it to be fair, the library district does not allow them into the district. The foundation swoops in as a charitable arm of our library and says, hold on, we are going to make sure that you have a library card and we're going to pay for that for you. They pay for it. We're fair to taxpayers.
okay, thank you.
Just if I lived in Jackson County, could I have access to the Josephine Community Library System?
Well, I don't think you would need to because Jackson County Library has.
Oh, that's not the question. The question is if I did.
I think that much like this case today, it would be unprecedented.
I know as a person that reads a lot, there's institutions across, I'm getting in the back. I'm breaking my own rules. Next. Okay.
I had a daycare in California, and we used to use the Huntington Beach Library, and it was fantastic. I didn't have to worry what books they picked out. In the past 6 months or 8 months or maybe longer, people from my church have been going to their library board meeting, which they said is a little, somebody in the audience let me know that they're a little antagonistic. But the point is, we have family values in this neighborhood. Let me repeat that. It used to be, it should still be a family-oriented neighborhood. And yet people tell me that recently they had to get rid of something that was very, very inappropriate. We already have the schools that are showing naked 6-year-olds in their health education books. It's ridiculous. Now we have libraries. The National Library Association, from my conservative organizations that I read and belong to, are saying that they're very liberal. So we're moving from a conservative neighborhood into this where anything goes. And this is the problem with why Mike Pelfrey wanted to be in the membership of the board, is because he wants to move us back to where this neighborhood was. This neighborhood can still be a very conservative, very family-oriented community. But if we move our kids like we're doing in the public schools.
But I understand the point of view of somebody who says, if I could pay this amount of money to have a library district card, why would I be in the district? I think opting out of the district is a draconian response to that question because it's a slippery slope, right? What I am afraid of is that this is a way of draining the library of resources such that it has to close again. If you have a problem with the idea that you would be paying less outside of the district, you take that up with the district. You take that up with the foundation. You don't try to destroy the library entirely, which is where I think this is going. People love this library. I love this library. I want to see it as well-funded as possible. I think that the only way to do that is to work within the system and not to destroy the district that we worked so hard to create.
All right. So that is the end of testimony, and we will return back to the Board of County Commissioners, starting with Commissioner D. Young.
Bottom of the totem pole, here I am. I'm going to try to stay on course here, which is real tough for me, especially in a controversial thing like this. As you know, the library was closed for a number of years. Why? Because y'all weren't going to pay for it. So anybody that wanted a library was not going to have it. And so along comes a community library and says, we're going to form a group and we're going to see if we can open the library ourselves. And they have done that. And then they came to the Board of County Commissioners and said, we would like to put on the ballot a library district. So it went to the voter. The voter decided, yes, that's in favor of. Now we're back to, I want out. I didn't vote for it, but I want out. And Mr. Pelfrey may have voted for it. I don't know how he voted, but the people spoke through the ballot box. Yes, they wanted a library district. Part of that conversation was who's going to be in charge. They have a elected governing body elected by the voters called the library board, the board of directors. Mr. Pelfrey, you wanted to be one of those people. Thank you for stepping up. But because they're the board of directors and all our charge was to bring it to you, the voter, I think we were out of it. But there's a state statute that says, no, you'll never get out of it, Mr. County Commissioner. You're it. But I think it's up to the library board of directors whether to be in or out. That's my own personal opinion. When you say that you should be able to be in or out, you're just basically saying that elections don't matter.
So this is very unpopular, I can tell. The problem is we live in the state of Oregon, I guess, because the state put out a statute 198.870. We're here to decide this statute and how it applies to this piece of property. The county board may approve the petition as presented, or it may adjust the boundaries or approve the petition. The petition shall be approved if it has not been or is not or would not be feasible for the territory described in the petition to receive service from the district. The petition shall be denied if it appears that it is or would be feasible for the territory described in the petition to receive services from the district. That really is the question today. So I went a little bit farther into this. This is the Josephine County Library District Economic Feasibility Statement. So I wanted to see what was the thinking and what was the commissioners after, along with the citizens, when they did this. And so as I studied this 29, 31, I knew it was going to be a lot of pages, but 36-page document, when this district was formed, not one line in here can I find where it addresses how does the district service your property. What I do find is how does this district service and benefit a person, not how it benefits or services your property, which goes back to the statute. So I'm not going to sit here and say that I know what the commissioners were thinking or not thinking or didn't. I'm not saying they didn't do their job correctly. I'm just saying the economic feasibility statement did not address how or can it or will it feasibly service a piece of property inside the district. I'm a little perplexed with some of the comments because we've talked about a lot of how a person receives benefit from the library. That's not what the question here is. It's about the territory / property. As a property owner, I really struggle with trying to figure out, except for costing me more property tax, that piece of property being charged more property tax, I'm really struggling with how does this piece of property feasibly benefit? Now, we've heard that it could, I guess, make your land values worth more. As somebody who's been in the real estate business and is currently in the real estate business, I have a hard time believing that that's a valid argument. So we talk about you can get books, you can talk to Mary Mayhem. I don't know what her name was that you explained, whatever that was, anyway, on the internet. If broadband goes to your property, and the argument is, well, the library has online material for that person to read. Are we talking about the person or are we talking about the property? I'm having a hard time figuring out how it is supplying a service to the property, not the person. It's a struggle. I understand that voters voted. But if they voted, then why did the state give us a statute so you can opt in on your free will, which we receive those almost weekly? But the state said, well, if you have the right to opt in, we're going to give you a mechanism if you meet this standard to also opt out.
Hey, first off, I'd like to bring some clarity of why we're here today and not next Wednesday. We put a lot of things on the agenda shortly before the time period. We have to give 24-hour notice. There's a lot of things because the documents become available. It had nothing to do with politics. This was slated for this Wednesday. Last week, we discussed it in some meetings and we thought we'd have the documentation. I seen on Tuesday afternoon, it wasn't. And so I had to contact staff and they put it on next week because they thought we had a lot of things on the agenda and for time constraints to just move it. And I said, no, let's move it to this week. Second thing, this is not about if libraries are good or libraries are bad, if libraries have value or libraries don't. Times are changing. The internet is changing things at the speed of sound, literally. I can join libraries all over this planet now. All I got to do is give them a credit card number. And somebody brought up the charter. The charter does say that it shall support the districts. Well, what does that mean? Shall support. Doesn't say shall financially support. It just says shall support. The county shall support. So having a community library district must mean there's a shall support. Doesn't give a definition what shall support means. So that's interesting. It's like I said at the beginning of this is a very interesting discussion. So with that, I will entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we follow trying to get the right wording here.
We're either approving or denying the petition.
Approve the petition for withdrawal.
Okay, discussion.
The property that is in the district, does that have benefit to itself? It can't come in here. The property can't walk in and say, gee, I'm comfortable with the district. And it can't come in here and tell them I want out. That's done with the people, with the homeowner. That's what makes it very, very sticky with me. And I'm not going to be supporting the petition. Now that there is a voted in elected board of directors for the library district, it's just like the irrigation district. When you want out of the irrigation district, you don't come to us. This is a huge step that I don't think I'm willing to take at this time. I don't think that we should do this right now. How is a young person that needs the information that the library has, how are they supposed to get that at the library if they're not there? So I'm not willing to take this step at this time. I'm going to be a no vote on the petition, and that's just the way I am. Thank you.
So when I was elected to this office, I knew there was going to be some tough decisions to be made and some unpopular or popular, whatever they are. So we don't have anything before us that says, this is my opinion, that we can kick the can down the road hoping for the state to clarify or change this statute. We only have what the state has given us at this point. I don't feel like we have I guess maybe we do have the luxury, but I don't believe in it. I think that when you have the right to come before this board, we have a job to do, and that is to act on what the regulations, the rules, the statutes say that we are to do. I have to rule on what I have in front of me. As I've said it before, there's been lots said that it benefits the piece of property or it's feasible this way or that way. But, there's a thing of I can say a lot of things, but there's also called proof. And so I know from my own fact that I have property that there is no possible way that the library feasibly benefits my property. Now, anyway, I'm not going to go on. I just, I'm just trying to follow the statute and all that. So.
Yeah, I'll just reiterate again, 198-870 refers to the property, not an individual. And 198-010 is the definition for districts, and there's 29 special taxing districts that you can ask to be withdrawn from. So with that, please call the roll.
Commissioner DeYoung.
No.
Commissioner West.
Yes.
Commissioner Bertschiger.
Yes, motion approved. So first of all, I will open a public hearing in the matter of withdrawal of property from the Josephine County Library District by petition of the landowners without election. Yes, please come up to the podium.
I filled out a petition to withdraw from the library district because the library does not benefit my property.
Yes.
And I am opting out as the library brings no service to my property.
I am requesting to opt out of the Josephine Community Library District because the Josephine Community Library District does not benefit or service my property.
The majority of the board's argument for the approval of the recent withdrawal petition is that the people of the territory and not the territory itself receives the benefit of the service of the library district. I believe both the territory and the people benefit from the library district. However, the county board has already decided that it is a territory that receives the benefit of service. ORS 198.805 details the conduct of the hearing for the formation of a district. The statute states that at the time stated in the notice, the county board shall hear the petition and determine, in accordance with the criteria prescribed by statute ORS 199.462, whether the area could be benefited by the formation of a district. Since the petition was approved, the county board has already determined that all areas included in the formation of the district benefit from the library district. This includes all properties of the past and current petitioners attempting withdrawal from the district. Additionally, the statute being used for the withdrawal of the territory from the district, ORS 198.870, requires in paragraph 3 that ORS 198.800 apply to the proceedings for the withdrawal and to the rights, powers, and duties of the petitioners and other persons having an interest in the proceeding. County board is an interested party in the proceedings, and as such, this statute makes it a duty for the county board to set a date for the hearing on the petition. The hearing may not be held less than 30 days or more than 50 days after the date the petition is filed. At present, 30 days have not elapsed since the petition is filed for withdrawal. This means that the board is breaking the law by holding these hearings. This is doubly the case due to the county not following the notice requirements set forth in the same statute. Also, this same statute requires that the petition for withdrawal meet the requirements of a separate statute, ORS 198.775, which states a petition for formation, annexation, withdrawal, or dissolution shall not be accepted for filing unless the petition is accompanied by a bond, a cash deposit, or other security deposit. County board breaks the law again by not collecting this required cash deposit for the current and past petitioners. County additionally breaks the law by not having petitioners sign the required form notifying them they are responsible for the costs of the attempted withdrawal. This should include any court cost and the attorney costs and time to the county by litigating with the library district. This statute requires the county to collect these costs from the petitioners when the withdrawal is not effected. Any questions?
Sir, are you an attorney?
I am not.
Thank you. We had a good discussion, an informative discussion over the library district withdrawal procedures. So now we're going to have a discussion about the weekly business session. I would entertain a motion that we suspend all applications, annexation, territorial change. Annexation or withdrawals from the Josephine County Community Library District for 60 days until we can go through a complete review of the statutes.
And I'll second that with the discussion that the reason we're doing it halting all ins and outs is because we want to look at this whole thing holistically, not just say, okay, just the outs that are the problem or the ins are the problem, because we had some questions about everything. So that I'll agree with that.
So the first order of business is these annexations to the library district. And as everybody probably knows, there's some questions that need to be answered. So yesterday at one of our workshops, the board here voted unanimously to put the annexations and the withdrawals on hold for 60 days. Until we can get to the bottom of this and get some clarity. There's still questions. We've met with our legal team several times. They still have questions. Unfortunately, the statutes that give us guidance on these issues are interesting, I will say. And since this statute is over 50 years old and there's not much guidance on how to address them, we're going to put everything on hold for 60 days, and we're going to acquire some other legal minds to help us through this process. We want to make sure we get it correct before we proceed. Yes, I'm going to let you talk. Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Bertschiger. I think it's really important to point out a couple things, and I do appreciate, again, the opportunity to speak, so thank you. So these are 5 petitioners who've gone through the correct procedure. It's the same procedure that you've done for 6 years, not you in particular, but the Board of County Commissioners. Those statutes, the statutes that dictate or direct law for withdrawal is different than the statute that dictates or directs law for annexation. Completely different statute. And these folks are adding their properties to the districts because they weren't included in that 2017 vote. It's a very different process. They followed all the procedures. They've paid their fees. They've been accepted by the Department of Revenue. They've been accepted by the Secretary of State, and they've done the same procedure you've done for 6 years. And I think to block the annexations at this point is suspect.
Well, everybody has their opinion. I can tell you that we're not blocking anything. We are not denying these individuals. We're just putting the process on hold for 60 days because we're unsure that we're doing it correctly. And I have to take the advice of our legal team. But the people, if they're here that want to annex in, that doesn't mean we're denying you. That doesn't mean we're going to make you pay again. It's just, we're just putting the process on hold for 60 days. We don't even know if we're using the right petitions, even for your set. So there's questions on both right now. And until we get those addressed, we would just like to put it on hold. I want to come back with a clear process for annexing in and for withdrawing out. I want it to be, I guess in layman's term, bulletproof for everybody. There are two different processes. We're done. Well, you know what? We're not, we voted yesterday. We're done. Okay.
Government officials can only come close to creating a more perfect union by implementing as well as possible the will of the people. That is the bedrock of a democratic republic. All other considerations become secondary. When a government ignores, subverts, or reverses the vote of the people, it frays the fabric of society. When in doubt, the people's vote overrides government statutes, laws, and rules. The vote, the will of the people, is the first place you look for to get your bearings. Last week, several at this podium pointed out that you voted to ignore the will of the people. Where did the permission originate to override the library's district vote? Are we to believe that the intention of the 52-year-old ORS 198-870 was created to be a loophole to override the will of the people? Last week, several citizens did an incredible deep dive into this issue, far more in depth than anything presented by the commissioners or legal counsel. Are we now dependent on citizens to do the commissioners' homework? Why a similar deep dive was not undertaken by the commissioners before submitting this to the public is irresponsible. We also face the potential of a lawsuit. Part of the commissioner's fiduciary responsibility is fiscal responsibility. And particularly at this time, fiscal responsibility is essential responsibility. If the commissioners had slowed down and taken more time in this non-pressing issue, we might have been able to discover much more about the legal implications of this impetuous decision that could prove to be quite costly for our impoverished county. We all yearn for the promise of a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, not a government of bureaucrats fumbling for clarity in the bottomless swamp of the ORS bureaucracy. It looks like we may be in a slow motion train wreck.
Before we move on to our public hearing, the library annexation order was tabled on December 20th, 23 at a weekly business session. At that legal counsel meeting of the board moved to suspend all applications for annexation and or withdrawals from the Josephine County Library District for 60 days. So today I would like to reverse that motion. I would entertain a motion to lift the 60-day suspension for annexation into the library district. And I would ask for a motion of that.
So move, Mr. Chair.
I will go ahead and second it and have comments.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and now we will look to comments.
So the intent of this so-called moratorium was to work through the process. We obviously have been frustrated. Everybody has been frustrated with the statutory language. It's difficult to understand. It contradicts itself. Some of it was written in the 50s. Some of it was written in the 70s. There's little case law to look at and review. We're not done with that process of trying to figure out how to create a process that is within the sideboards of these statutes. We're not done with that yet. We've been sued. It's in court. The judge is looking at it. We don't know what he's going to say. And we're getting other advice, legal advice. And it seems like every time we have another person looking at it, we have another opinion. So because we are not finished with this process, I'm somewhat reluctant to lift the moratorium. However, I will be in agreement with that with reservation, simply because we're not done with this process. And it's so complicated that it's going to take some time to work through this. And I just I'm a little bit reluctant making decisions when I'm not fully satisfied with the interpretations of the process that I'm working with.
Thank you, Commissioner. I agree with you. Every time I go through more statutes, I have more questions, and so it's hard to follow it completely. So, any further comments?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I've, listening to both of you today, I just, in my hopes of all hopes, I wish we would have had this very same attitude we're looking at today a few weeks ago and a month or two ago, that we were willing to pump the brakes and look at all the statutes and can this really happen, rather than march ahead and say, I know it can happen and we're going to do this. So I appreciate your coming around a little bit, I guess, and seeing how the process works and let the process work, rather than marching ahead and telling people that they can annex out and everything else, when really there was not a pathway to do that at that time. So we're working through that. Our legal system, our legal team is working on that, but I wish we'd have taken this stance a couple of months ago. So thank you, but I appreciate that.
Okay, with that being said, we have a motion and a second. Will you call the roll?
Commissioner DeYoung,
Yes.
Commissioner Bertschiger,
Yes.
Commissioner West.
Yes. Motion passes.
If you're annexing in, are the 5 people aware of 198-860? Let me read it. After the date of entry of an order by the county board annexing a territory to a district, the territory annexed shall become subject to the outstanding indebtedness, bonded or otherwise, of the district in like manner as the territory within the district. As long as you guys end up letting them know that, then I feel that you're doing all you can do. If you're not letting them know that, they need to know it right now, because they are putting their house in jeopardy, their property in jeopardy for the future in case of indebtedness. And there's nothing that I can find, and I've done some deep diving here, that is in any way going to be touched by legal on this. This stands throughout all of 198. I think that as long as you have transparency, best you can do. The public needs to know that.
Is any of the applicants here today? Is there someone here that wants to speak on their behalf, or is to speak on their behalf to anything to say? No, I'm just asking, is there anyone that, okay.
Thank you, commissioners. My name is Kate Lasky. I'm the library director for Josephine Community Library District. And as we have done for the last 6 years, these 5 petitioners would like to annex their property into the library district to receive the benefit of the service and have the opportunity to vote or run for the board in the next election.
Any questions from the commissioners? Yeah, I just had one question, and it's just because if someone was speaking for me, I always ask this question. Does the library district ever obtain a
bond?
No, do you obtain any documents from them to speak on their behalf or anything like that?
I don't know what you're asking.
So
Talking maybe like a release to speak on behalf of the applicant?
yeah,
Is that what you're asking?
power of attorney that if you speak for them or anything, not you, but the library, if the library is got a power of attorney to hold them to any, as we heard, indebtedness or anything that you're agreeing on their behalf when.
I think that they've signed their annexation petitions and petitions are before the board, and I'm sort of the introductory sentence for the last 6 years. If you would like to not have that introductory sentence anymore, I'm happy to step down.
Oh, no, I'm not saying this. So I was asked that question yesterday. And so that's why I'm just asking.
Signature on the petition is pretty binding.
Okay. Thank you. No, that's it.
You know, we also have a home rule charter, and our home rule charter currently says that the commissioners support the library district. So that's in our charter. That's what we have to do. It saddens me in the new proposed charter that is going to be on the ballot in May, that has been removed, and the commissioners no longer have to support the library. So that's in the new charter going forward that is proposed. So with that, Mr. Chair, I am ready to take a vote.
All right. Thank you. Will you call the roll?
Commissioner DeYoung,
Yes.
Commissioner Bertschiger,
Yes.
Commissioner West.
Yes. Motion carries, and those folks are now in the library district.
I'm just wondering, Friday, the a lawsuit, as I understand it, was delivered to legal. At what point will we be able to get the verbiage of that, know exactly what was in the lawsuit, what their contentions are? I'm assuming that they may be, some sort of blanket statement and want to dig into this, or they may have a specific thing that they're suing for. And wondering when that's available, through what method is that available for the verbiage for the public? That's all.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm going to read an article from the paper. Josephine County Commissioner Dan DeYoung made it pretty clear on Wednesday. The decision last month by his two colleagues to approve a petition for withdrawal from the Josephine County Library District was not only rushed, it was not very smart as well. Commissioner Herman Barsheiger Jr. and John West gave the green light to library critic Mike Pelfrey's petition on December 6th. DeYoung voted against it. Now the county is embroiled in litigation and has been ordered by a judge to halt all withdrawal petitions until the matter is settled in court. We obviously have been frustrated. Everyone has been frustrated with the statutory language. It's difficult to understand. Let's state the obvious here. Why wasn't the difficult to understand statutory language sorted out before Barsheiger and West approved Pelfrey's petition? Barsheiger was supposedly so worried about legal issues that he led the charge to give away Sportsman Park to a local gun club. Yet now every county taxpayer, whether they live in the library district or not, is paying for the county's assistant legal counsel to make court filings in response to the library district's legal challenge. DeYoung let Barsheiger and West know Wednesday that they blew it by not taking the time to give the full and complete legal review Pelfrey's petition required. There are more than 2.2 million Oregonians who live in library districts, and all of a sudden Barsheiger and West believe they found a law that allows people to reject voter-approved taxes? In my hope of all hopes, DeYoung told Barsheiger and West, I wish we would have had this very same attitude we're looking at today a few weeks ago, a month or two ago, that we were willing to pump the brakes and look at all the statutes and can this really happen, rather than march ahead and say, I know it can happen and we're going to do this. So I appreciate your coming around a little bit, DeYoung continued, and see how the process works and let the process work rather than marching ahead and telling people that they can annex out and everything else when really there is not a path to do that at that time. On Wednesday, DeYoung inferred that it was either Barsheiger or West or both who made the decision to put Pelfrey's petition on the December 6th agenda and clear who was responsible, because conventional wisdom would lead one to believe that something so controversial and without precedent in the state of Oregon would first be cleared by the county's legal counsel. That legal counsel, Wally Hicks, is an elected official. If he is responsible for bungling this so badly, voters need to know about it.
Commissioner Bearchiger.
Thank you. Well, I've said it many times. The problem with newspapers is not what you read, that what's in them. It's all the things that you don't read that's not in them. So the Courier, why they would put in an article about the library, the Sportsman Park, is absolutely beyond me. But let's start at the beginning. So the Board of County Commissioners, since the formation of the library district, has annexed people in. We've never been asked for people to withdraw. Somebody submitted an application to withdraw. At that time, the board asked, what's the procedure? And we had a briefing and we followed that procedure. Sure, it was controversial. Absolutely, it was controversial. But the very next meeting, somebody stood up supporting the library district and stated a statute that I had not seen on this issue. And as they were talking, I looked on my cell phone and I found that statute and I said, it does have something to do with this. I don't know to what extent. I recessed the meeting, went and talked to our legal team. They didn't have a quick answer. I came back and I asked this board to table the matter until we looked into it. You didn't read that in the Daily Courier. Oh no, you didn't read that this board stopped the process going forward until we could figure it out. You did not read it. You'll never read it. You'll read the Sportsman Park in a library article, but you won't read that. The very next day, the Board of County Commissioners met in their office, and there was a motion made to put a moratorium on all of either annexing in or withdrawing out. It was unanimous. We said time out. It didn't take a lawsuit to stop the process. Since then, our legal team has researched this very, very well. And surprisingly enough, we found out we weren't doing the annexations right. We've corrected that. We are still working on the withdrawal process. Much more complicated, a higher test, but we will get that done. Yes, it's taking some time. The reason it's taking some time is because, in my opinion, the library board jumped the gun and filed a lawsuit. So we have to wait until that process is completed before we could come out and have the correct procedure for withdrawal. You don't read that in a courier. So there you have it. I'm sorry that newspaper is not a reliable source of all the information that's pertinent to an issue. I can't help that.